it actually mean to achieve perfection, really? Not just, for a moment, but as this whole journey, this relentless thing that just demands everything from you. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into the extraordinary life of someone who didn't just touch perfection, she basically redefined it. We'll be navigating through some fascinating excerpts from Nadia Comăneci, The Story of Perfect 10, and other great sources, too, to really try and understand the woman behind the legend.
Yeah, and our mission really is to dig out the most important insights from Nadia's journey, to understand not just what she did, which was incredible, obviously, but what it cost her. And maybe, most importantly, what her story means for us today. We'll explore how that raw talent, combined with just immense discipline and honestly unimaginable pressure, how that can forge a legend, but also uncover the surprising, often quite heavy price of that perfection. It's about going beyond the scores, into the heart of a really remarkable life.
Okay, so let's unpack this. It all starts in this small town, pretty unassuming, in communist Romania, back in the early 1960s. Just try to picture this tiny girl, bursting with energy, couldn't sit still, climbing fences, jumping over things, balancing super easily on anything she could find. That was Nadia. And nobody, absolutely nobody, could have guessed that this little kid, barely taller than a balance beam, would one day just completely rewrite what we thought was humanly possible.
What really jumps out there is that idea of genius hiding in plain sight. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it, how many potential world changers we just walk past every day. For Nadia, though, that spark was seen by the legendary coach Bella Lee. He spots her doing cartwheels during recess, of all things. And he didn't just see, a flexible kid or some raw talent. He saw this incredible body control, yes, but also something deeper, this stubborn fire, someone who just didn't know how to quit. That intense focus, it's so rare in a child that young.
Right. And in a place like Romania back then, where discipline wasn't just encouraged, it was demanded. That fire was about to be tested, forged in this crucible of pressure that honestly most kids couldn't even imagine. And this is where the story gets, really intense. The training for gymnastics in 1970s Romania, it wasn't just hard, it was relentless. A crucible for body and mind. Can you imagine being just 6 years old, getting up before dawn, repeating these incredibly complex routines until your hands were literally raw, muscles screaming, just totally exhausted. And we learned crying was just forbidden. It was seen as weak. And weakness. Intolerable in that system. The coaches demanded absolute perfection, pushing these young bodies to do things considered almost impossible then, like that full twisting front flip dismount off the uneven bars. Nadia eventually nailed that.
It does raise that question, though, doesn't it? What's talent worth without just unbelievable endurance? And that kind of almost painful discipline. I mean, while other kids are playing, having normal childhoods, Nadia's world was this tiny bubble. Repetitions, expectations, sacrifice, just constant. Her story really shows that extraordinary things often demand a kind of suffering, something that reshapes you. But, and this is crucial, like you said, the suffering itself isn't the point. It has to be channeled meticulously, transformed into this breathtaking art, this precision, and ultimately just immense courage. She wasn't just doing moves, she was engraving perfect muscle memory. That takes total mental and physical submission.
Yeah, but even with all that iron discipline, the brutal routine, she was still a kid. The sources remind us, she loved candy, she laughed and shared secrets with her teammates. She still wanted that warmth from her parents when she could get it, but the gym. That was totally different. Every little slip, every wobble, every landing that wasn't perfect, it carried this huge weight. Because under the coach's eyes, she wasn't just a little girl. She was being molded, into the seed of a nation's dream, a symbol of communist strength.
Right, heavy stuff for a kid.
Okay, so let's fast forward. Summer of 1976, Montreal, the Olympic arena. It's basically this global stage where history just stopped for a second. And you have to remember the backdrop. The Cold War was at its peak. It cast this huge shadow over everything. Sport wasn't just sport, it was ideology, national pride, a fierce battle for recognition. So picture this, July 18th. Nadia Comăneci steps up. She's 14, barefoot, ponytail, mounts the uneven bars. A whole crowd, tens of thousands, just goes completely silent. It's almost unnatural. Even the judges, seasoned pros, they're leaning in, captivated. Nobody really knew what was about to happen. I mean, before Nadia, moves like the Comăneci salto, that really hard release move, were seen as revolutionary.
Yeah.
But it was her whole routine that was about to just shatter everything.
Yeah, to really get what happened next, you have to understand gymnastics back then. Perfection. A 10-point zero. It was
That's
just
right.
considered impossible, theoretical, not something a real human could actually do. The scoreboards themselves, they only went up to 9.99 because, honestly, who could ever be flawless? But then, Nadia starts her routine, and she moves across those bars with this grace that just seemed to defy gravity. Every single bit of it, the transitions, the releases, the twists, with a precision that didn't just impress. It literally made time freeze. And when she dismounted, stuck the landing, absolutely still, almost supernatural. There's this pause and this collective gasp, and the place just exploded.
And then the scoreboard, it flickers on. And it shows something that just confused everyone. 1.00. People thought, oh, it's broken, a mistake. But nope, it wasn't broken. The machine literally couldn't display 10 out of meat. Nadia Comăneci had done it. The impossible. The first perfect 10 in Olympic history. And not just once. She got 7 perfect 10s in those games. 7.
Unbelievable. And that moment, it really, truly echoed around the world. The entire planet, divided by politics, language, ideology, suddenly united. Just watching this teenage girl in awe. Her performance went way beyond the Cold War rivalry. It became this shared human moment. A really powerful reminder, wasn't it? That despite all our divisions, there's something universal in seeing human potential reach its absolute peak. That perfect 10 wasn't just a number. It was almost like this temporary political statement. It forced enemies to kind of nod at the same human ideal. Shows the power of individual excellence over those big, grand narratives.
All of perfection, as amazing as it is, it nearly always casts these long, dark shadows, doesn't it? Nadia wasn't just Nadia anymore. She became something else, a symbol, a very potent one.
And the communist regime in Romania. Well, they seized on that immediately. They claimed her for propaganda, paraded her around as proof. See, our system is superior. Her medals were just personal wins anymore. They were blunt instruments of ideology. We learned about the constant surveillance she was under, the forced appearances, the relentless pressure to keep up this impossible public image. Behind the smiles, she was carrying this incredible burden, right? Being a living monument, a national asset. That childlike innocence, just gone. Replaced by the cold, heavy weight of national expectation. It basically stripped her of her own agency. And you have to ask, how do you stay, well, human, when the world demands you remain this flawless symbol?
And it wasn't just the regime pushing that perfection itself. It drew criticism just as much as admiration. Controversy started swirling, whispers from the West, is she being controlled, exploited for politics? How much pain, real pain, was hidden behind those perfect routines? Commentators debated everything she did. Her myth started to get tangled up with the harsh reality of her daily life.
Yeah, her teenage years especially sound like this grueling battle, not just against gravity and the routines, but against just growing up under that constant, suffocating watch. The state watched every move, her coaches pushed relentlessly, the whole world watched, judged, projected their hopes onto her. And inside all that, she's just a young woman trying to figure out who she is, right? Craving freedom, dreaming of things beyond medals. That constant scrutiny must have made her teenage years incredibly isolating. She just didn't have the normal space to develop that other kids get.
So by the 1980 Moscow Olympics, things had shifted. Nadia was older, her body was naturally changing, heavier with adolescence, and her inner freedom felt even more restricted by the regime's tightening grip. She still shone, don't get me wrong. 1-2 more golds showed incredible resilience, but that fairy tale perfection of 76, it felt different. There was this dawning, painful realization. Fairy tales, especially her reality, come at a huge cost.
And conditions inside Romania were getting much worse then. Poverty was deepening, freedom shrinking. Nadia wasn't just the golden child anymore. She was becoming less of a symbol and more like, a prisoner, a bird in a gilded cage, basically. Her every move controlled, her future decided by others. Her career was currency, not just her achievement.
Which brings us to maybe the most daring leap of her life. And it wasn't on any apparatus, it was across borders. November 1989, just weeks before communism fell in Romania, Nadia Comăneci defected. She escaped at night, guided through these freezing, dangerous fields, dense forests, chased by border patrols, facing very real threats. Capture, prison, maybe even death if they caught her.
And she just kept running, driven by this need to claim something she'd never really had. Real personal freedom.
Her courage then, it's just astonishing. It makes you think, doesn't it? How much risk would you take to get your life back? To stop being a symbol, an asset, and just be a person again?
Her escape wasn't another perfect routine. It was messy, incredibly dangerous, totally uncertain. But in that raw act of defiance, she showed the world. Nadia's true strength wasn't just in those flawless flips. It was in daring to leap into the absolute unknown, choosing herself over that gilded cage.
And when she finally got to America, she arrived with basically nothing but her name. All that Olympic glory, the fame, it doesn't just translate into stability. Not in a new country, she had to rebuild everything from scratch. starting from the identity of a defector, not just a champion. Imagine adapting to a whole new culture, learning the language, money worries, finding her own voice after decades of being told what to say.
But that period of her life is just such a powerful testament to resilience, isn't it? What we see is that out of that brokenness, this new, often stronger kind of strength can really emerge. Nadia just systematically carved out a new path. She turned her difficult story into inspiration for millions, wrote books, became this powerful voice for children's causes around the world, used her platform for things bigger than herself, and crucially, she found a different kind of partnership, married Bart Connor, another Olympic champion. They built this bond based not just on shared history in sports, but on real respect, understanding, love, built a family, a life free from all those old pressures.
So she really did become remembered for more than just a score, didn't she? Or one moment of perfection. Her whole life proved that, well, external scores just aren't the measure of a soul's worth. Nadia Comăneci's story, then. It's clearly not just about gymnastics, not really. It feels more like this compelling story about courage. Facing cages, finding the will to climb out, and then truly flying towards something bigger than just winning.
Absolutely. Her life teaches us such a powerful lesson about what perfection even is. She showed us it's not about never making mistakes or having no flaws. It's more about refusing to let imperfection define you and stop you. It's about that relentless internal drive for excellence. It's about everything pushing against you. Which leads to a deeper question maybe. What does it really mean to be perfect? Is it sticking that landing when millions watch? Or is it carrying your wounds, your scars with grace and dignity when nobody sees the struggle?
Yeah, that's powerful. Because the truth is, we all have our own uneven bars, right? Those daily struggles, the anxieties, the fears, the times we wobble, feel off balance, vulnerable. Those are our personal tests of resilience.
Exactly. And in those moments, we all have that chance not to score some perfect 10 for other people.
Yeah.
But to chase a kind of personal, authentic excellence for ourselves.
Right.
That internal validation, that commitment to our own growth. That's way more fulfilling than any applause.
So wrapping this up, what are the big takeaways from this deep dive into Nadia's life? Well, first, even the tiniest spark of talent, if it's nurtured with just relentless effort, can light up the whole world. Second, that incredible discipline and sacrifice. They really can pave the way to extraordinary, even revolutionary achievements. And maybe the most powerful thing, true freedom sometimes has to be dared for, leapt for, even when the risk seems absolutely impossible.
Indeed. And if you connect that to just the human spirit, the ultimate lesson seems to be that this kind of perfection isn't just for gymnasts on Olympic stages. Perfection, in its most meaningful sense, it lives in that courage to keep trying, to keep getting up after you fall, to keep believing in yourself when the world tells you it can't be done.
So as you think about Nadia's journey, maybe ask yourself, what's your uneven bar? What's that big leap you're hesitating to take in your own life?
Yeah.
Don't wait for some imaginary scoreboard in life to tell you you're worthy or capable. Just leap anyway, dare anyway, defy anyway. Because, like Nadia Comăneci, you might just find out that perfection isn't really about the score at all. It's about the incredible, powerful story you decide to leave behind.